thank you for joining us at the 2025 BC Active Transportation Summit in beautiful Kimberley, British Columbia. Over the course of the event, Caroline Duneau got a chance to catch up with and connect with representatives from our valued sponsors to learn more about their important contributions to active transportation projects across the province. We had a quick chat with Molly Barwosky, Regional Coordinator for Children's Sustainable Transportation with TransLink.
Can you tell me a bit more about why you're here at the BCAT Summit as well as TransLink?
So we're here because we have a strategy called the TravelSmart for Kids strategy, which is Metro Vancouver's strategy to support children's active travel. But one of the pieces that we're working on as part of the strategy is called the SNAP School Neighbourhood Activation Playbook. We've recognized that the areas around schools, what we call school neighborhoods, about the 400 meters around, is a really critical piece to encouraging and building active travel habits. And this guidance that we're creating is for the whole province. So we really wanted to get that rural and smaller community representation and hear from those voices to ensure that our guide would be applicable all across BC.
Can you tell me a bit more about the SNAP project? Sounds really interesting.
Yeah, well, part of the TravelSmart for Kids strategy is really collaborating with partners across sectors and areas, including health and academia and local governments and school districts and everywhere in between, and identifying solutions to gaps. So a gap that we had heard was that the area around the school was challenging to navigate in terms of collaboration and the coordination of the right interventions for that space. So essentially what we decided to do was identify what the top barriers are in school neighborhoods and then map those onto the school neighborhood specific interventions that make the most sense around schools. School neighborhoods are unique and we recognize that, and there isn't a lot of guidance to support people in navigating those unique environments. And so that's why we created SNAP, and we've heard really great feedback and excited to share this and hopefully have it as a useful and applicable resource around the province.
That sounds amazing, and I'm so glad you guys were able to speak about that today. What would you say, as a TransLink employee, as an active transportation user yourself, is the biggest hurdle to, advancing active transportation across BC?
I think it's twofold for me. Of course, we talk about the infrastructure, and that's a really important piece. Fundamentally, you just have to have the options for people to get around, and that's really what my team and I work to develop. Everyone deserves to have options as to how they get from place to place, so establishing that basic foundation of the options. But another key piece, especially in my work with ages 0 to 12 and families and caregivers, is building that culture around active travel. And so this is where programming and education and those other programmatic and supportive pieces come in and are so important for activating that space, because we can build the infrastructure, but we also need to make sure that people feel comfortable and confident using those spaces. Just yesterday in a session, we were talking about diversity in biking and having, dedicated education for women, for families, for children to use these spaces and feel confident is really key.
I know some of these, programs that I've heard of are like the bike bus program, walking to school programs. Are those some of the programmatic initiatives that you look at as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we support walking school bus and bike bus in Metro Vancouver and beyond. They've actually expanded now around the province, which is amazing. And there's also other programmatic pieces that we're talking about, such as like crossing guards are in our SNAP, as well as school streets where you close the street before and after, play streets. There's a variety of ways. And then of course there's education and then running like campaigns and initiatives. But really it's a critical piece of what we do at TransLink, not only supporting the building of the infrastructure, but activating it and changing behavior to use it.
Absolutely. Well, kids are the future and got to start, when they're young. What is something that you are taking away from this conference, something you've learned, something that was insightful that maybe you'll bring back to your work?
I think that being in a smaller community is so critical for informing the work that we do in Metro Vancouver and beyond, not only in terms of some of the physical barriers that come up that like around snow or maintenance or wildlife that we might not consider, but are so critical for building relationships and having the right information out there. So building, I guess, that knowledge of the smaller communities is one piece, but also the relationships. It's been so amazing being welcomed into Kimberley and into these spaces where there's so many folks who are joining from smaller communities. And yeah, that just, ultimately what we're doing is about supporting people in moving healthily and actively through their lives and feeling like they have communities where they're supported in that. So this is a great start in making that happen.